Greetings, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the S.I.C, aka the Siblings in Cardboard podcast. I'm your host, Donnie, joined by my buddies / co-hosts, Noah and Thomas. Whether you're a veteran card gamer or a first-timer just testing the waters, we are all siblings in cardboard. Guys, how have things been since the last time we talked?
Hey, I finally won an armory with Levia.
Nice!
My best friend and nemesis, Brandon, who I did beat him a few times on Dash.
One.
Yeah, and that was a nail biter.
I was so tired of playing you round one, but then
Levia
again,
versus Dory.
it was a fun game. I bricked one hand, but well, other than that, what do you do? I lose the math game.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
The Red Arctic Incarceration flipped up and gave me 4 frostbites, and still I was having flashbacks of all the other games I've lost to Arctic Incarceration pivot, but managed to clutch it out. It was close though, down to that 1v1 life total kind of thing.
Yeah, it turns out Arctic Incarceration is a good card.
I did the worst Blood Rush Bellow turn I've ever done. I played Blood Rush Bellow and I played Soul Harvest for 12. So I got nothing off of the Blood Rush Bellow. It was that bad.
I watched that turn.
And you won that game?
So what happened is, and you won that game. It was a strategic decision. I wanted to force the Lexi to drop some cards out of their hand. I wanted to potentially block with my whole hand if I had to, and flip to Consumed. But I had 2 Blood Debt cards in my graveyard. Because, it's fast game. Sometimes you just don't get them there. So I was like, okay. I drew the Soul Harvest. I could either swing Claws for 5/5 and Arsenal a blue, because my hand was full of blues, or I could just throw the Soul Harvest out. And I can make sure I have a really healthy consume pile. So I think it's actually a Soul Harvest for 11. Because I think I actually swung for 11 and intentionally took a non-blood debt card to give myself a really high chance to hit 6s going into the consume flip.
You did. It was 11. I remember.
And so yeah, the worst Blood Rush Bellow turn I've ever done, leading into an actual win versus.
Okay, I mean, sometimes you got to take the odd line just to throw people off.
Yeah,
so
it was
that's
very
what you were doing there. You were being strategic.
It was probably the right play, though, given the amount of blood that you had, the reasons for moving them. I mean, it probably makes sense. Like, in any other circumstance, right? But like in this particular, like sometimes it's the right play.
It was a grinder. I think I had 2. Yeah. I had 2 cards when I played the Soul Harvest, and I had 7 cards afterwards. Right. Finished the game with only 2 cards of Blood Debt in my graveyard at the end, and one of them being the Carrion Husk. So yeah, it was. I definitely used every single card. We grounded out. I think I had enough deck that he wasn't going to deck me. It's a good game.
Those are the best. How was your armory, Noah?
It was good. I mean, I didn't win, obviously, but like that doesn't mean it wasn't a good time. No, I lost the first round. Obviously, it was a nail biter. I think he was at 2 life or 1 life. I can't remember, but did well. I laid it out perfectly. Beat around the headpiece block. The Gowling Fletch bag, set up a perfect turn. Didn't matter what card it intimidated. Everything was great. Just couldn't do enough damage in the end, and I had a couple of like awkward hands where I couldn't present anything. The next game I played against the Vincent, and it was pretty much all gas the whole time, and so it was kind of bad news for me. I couldn't get any footing really. Everything was just clicking, firing on all cylinders. Great pummel times, which I actually discarded the card without reading the card. I know it was like instinctual, right? Crazy. It's almost like I knew what it does. And so it was a good game though. I mean, I kept waiting. I was full blocking A-being perfectly out all these like 5AB 12 or what, just perfect blocks the whole time. Never whiffed a single turn. And so if you're never gonna like whiff, sometimes the rune blades just, I've been on the high roll side of things. And so third game I play against a Dromai, and I high roll. I see all 3 Iron Song determinations in the first 5 hands, and I completely win with like 20 something life, disrespects 6 counters on Dawn Blade. There's 4 dragons on the board, but what does it matter when you're swinging for raw 9? So I was I was pretty much just shoving intentional courage tokens into Dromai and then just generating them for free off the dragons and then just turning around and just smashing back in. It was pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
I forgot
solid.
it. Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool effect that you dragons also get the courage token.
You can set up a turn if you think that Dromai's going to have something sneaky. You've got the extra resources. You just take the go again or the first instance and swing into a dragon with courage, and you get the courage token for the subsequent swing.
That's one advantage. That's one advantage like Dory has with those gloves over her other gloves, right? Because if you don't have a go again effect and you just need to keep your tokens, you could just hit a dragon with the gloves and get your courage token and that next turn.
Yeah, I mean that is one advantage if you're only doing the single swing. There's still that talk. Obviously, the battle warrant's really nice, the ability for you to be able to still use them after you're 2 blocked. But the +1 is really nice to have for sure on the second swing to solidify the counter, where most of the times you're not going to have the resources or be able to present the courage generation on the first swing. It gives too much tell to your opponent. If you don't leave that one resource floating, you pretty much tell them, here's what I have. If you're holding 2 cards, it's probably some kind of overpower route move, right? If you leave one floating, the sky's the limit. Right. And so you definitely want to create that weird math.
Did you do Tuesday Armory, Tony?
Yeah, I went to the Armory last night, and it was the most epic low roll in the history of Katsu. I think I drew 6 blues over the course of 2 games in my first 2 rounds, and then I got the bye for round 3. So it was not a good night for my Katsu. I mean,
I think maybe week 3 Nats Katsu stole all your energy.
I don't know.
That's a pretty good showing this past week.
Yeah, second place at Canadian Nats.
And a couple top 8s.
Yeah,
it's only going to get better for him too.
I mean, once Lexi goes, Katsu's going to be in a much better place. But now, it is what it is. Last night, I got rolled by Chris on Dory.
Oh boy, still Dawnblade, right?
Yeah, it was not even close. Not even remotely close. Then round 2, I got paired into Justin on Uzuri. And once again, just was not even close. It was an absolute slaughter. It got to the point where I was looking at my hand and thinking, okay, this game is already gone. What is the wackiest stuff that I can do just to mess with his head? How can I make this as funny as possible?
Like weird lines, right? Like
yes,
just,
exactly.
yeah.
The dumbest thing that I can do and not die. I want to keep playing, but I don't want to die.
3 spinning wheel kicks in one turn or something.
Whoa!
Oh no!
Don't underestimate that. That's real. That's a real thing.
Yeah, that's how I lost to Noah playing my deck on Friday, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you spinning wheel kick into spinning wheel kick into spinning wheel kick.
Yeah, something like that. No, it was.
Imagine he's got these swords. He's hitting you with these swords, and instead his feet are just spinning.
It's 4-5-5. It's
it's good.
Yeah, turns out spinning wheel kick is a good card too. But anyway, it just nothing ever lined up for me in either of my games. I know the deck is solid, but sometimes that's just TCGs. Sometimes you just don't draw what you need when you want to see it. Yeah, it is what it is. In both of those games, all of my D-Reacts, I think I saw a total of 2 of my D-Reacts per game, and the other 3 or 4 that I normally bring into those matchups were all in the bottom 20 of the deck, even after shuffling.
It's just one of those days at Armory. I went 1 and 2. Yeah. It happens, man. Sometimes they're close. Sometimes you play, sometimes you don't. Sometimes
if you have 8 players, someone has to go 0 and 3. So when you show up, man, that if you think about that, that's the most extreme case of that is day 2 of like a nationals where you're doing your second round of draft, right? So if you're doing well, like you went 4-0 and then 3-0 on day 1, you're going into day 2 7-0. You're sitting down at a table of a bunch of other people who are 7-0 and 6-1, and one of you is leaving there with 3 losses.
Yeah,
that's painful. Yeah, when you have such a good record, one of you is leaving with 3 losses. That's just what it is. Like it could be more. Like you draw for some reason. But yeah, that's
No,
that's
that's
just
not
how
going
it
to be a
is.
problem I have to worry about anytime soon. I'm not going to be qualified for Nats
Whoa.
for ProQuest or anything,
You
or
don't know.
Pro Tours or anything.
ProQuest
You
is
don't
coming
know
up next
that.
month. Don't know that.
Yeah, we're actually getting
Plenty
two
of time.
ProQuests. We are getting two ProQuests here in Georgia. We're getting one. It's going to be draft, and one's going to be constructed. The constructed one is going to be at Johns Creek, actually.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah, not the main level up. It's going to be at Johns Creek. Go figure.
Might and it's a 3-weekend event, just like most seasons. Yeah, so I might travel for whatever one we don't have. I'd like to participate 3 times if possible. Okay.
I mean, if you feel like traveling, you can go Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday.
Ooh,
I mean, you can. That's a lot of traveling, but you can make it happen.
I don't know about that much traveling. I was thinking maybe
I am
one
not that
weekend in
dedicated.
Tennessee or something might be fun.
Fair enough. But yeah, I'm not that dedicated myself.
All right. I wanted to talk about the last week of Nationals before we get into the ProQuest season. But before that, let's talk about the market impact of
That's right.
Nationals closing up with our segment with Noah.
It's not just about Nationals and necessarily the market, but some of the card reveals have caused the market and cards to trend
We'll talk about
upwards.
shortly.
Yes, which we'll talk about shortly, but I at least want to draw attention to a few of them. One of them is pretty obvious. It's Crown of Dominion. I think it's a card that should be on everybody's radar. I think in any rarity, respectively, Rainbow Foil has been creeping up. Used to be in the low 30s probably about 2 weeks ago, and now it's pretty steady above 40. And I think it's only going to climb.
What heroes,
So
if you play what heroes, should you consider go ahead and picking up your Crown of Dominion?
Definitely Dromai, definitely I think Emperor if you're trying to do him in Blitz. I think that there's going to be a possibility for that.
No, you can't cash in.
You can't?
No. You don't need the crown for the Emperor. The Emperor's
He's already royal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Fi I think might be able to take advantage of this as well, perhaps. But I think it's mainly Dromai. I just speculate that a lot of Dromai players are
right?
Viserai could do it too as well.
If you're thinking you want to play Viserai, cash in Viserai is like a real. You might want to consider getting your crown now.
And if Dromai is going to get popular, the Viserai into Dromai matchup is really good.
Get popular?
Yeah. Well, becomes more popular. If she becomes dominant after everything settles out, then yeah, the Dromai matchup in the Viserai matchup into Dromai is really good.
Any other cards?
What else you got?
Another card is Flamescale Furnace, believe it or not, which has been trending upwards. Same thing. It's been roughly about lower 70s. You were able to pick up a rainbow foil, and now you're looking upwards of 80 plus. I think it's only going to continue to go up. All these Lexi players have to go somewhere. We're going to talk about it later, but they will go to the top decks. And so I think before these cards start skyrocketing, we don't know what mech is going to give, although Teklo Foundry was on this list as well because it has been trending upward. I think people are still kind of skewed as to how the chest is going to fit in with the new armor and what hero it's going to fall into place, but I still think you should pick it up now before it does spike again. And then one hot pick, so we can keep it all on a positive, is Flick Knives has been plummeting. It is down from $80 of its cold foil 3 weeks ago to $50 right now for cold foils, and rainbow foils have just started propping back up to 20s. They've started to gain a little traction. The cold foil hasn't followed suit yet, and I really think people are waiting to see where their Shriek Razors might take some of the play field. But again, all these Lexi players have to go somewhere. Uzuri is going to be a great hero. I think a lot of the field is going to move to Uzuri and Dromai. I think those are going to be top contending decks. I still think Flick Knives is going to be the better gloves in a majority of the matchups. Get your cold foil now.
I think I have a dissenting opinion on that, but we'll talk about that when we get to Shriek Razors later.
Okay. Anything else?
Sell your Voltaires if you still have them. Your cold foil Voltaires, sell them. Sell your New Horizons. They're gone. Sell your tunics as well, and if you're really worried about it, I mean, obviously, if you're not, keep them. If you like your foil Welcome to Wrath or your crew first edition, you're safe just because it's first edition. But if you're worried about this new tunic, dropping it when we see how many are going to get pulled, we don't really know the pull rate yet. If it's going to be like a low print or what's going to the average pull. And so I still think they're going to go down. And so if you're worried about getting the most value for your foil tunic, now's the time to do it and subsidize if that's what you want to do. I think it's totally fine to do that. The Lexi stuff you can hang on to for LL format if you think it's going to creep back up. But I think
season.
That as well. I definitely think Tunic though is a safe bet if you're worried about losing too much value on that card.
Okay. Sounds like good advice.
So this is all stuff that's kind of fluctuating from the amount of living legend points a certain hero picked up from Nationals, and kind of speculation of ProQuest and speculation with the new Bright Light set coming out. So Nationals has finally wrapped up 3 weeks of Nationals season, and we're at the end. And Lexi, clearly, we already knew she wasn't going to make it, but she's not far. Got to 926. 926.
I got to go back and remember exactly, but I remember saying something about 910, 920. I remember it. This is good. This is exactly where I thought she'd be after this. It feels right. It's a good setup for Worlds.
Yeah, we knew she wasn't going to make it last week when we were looking at the numbers, because she would have had to win literally every event, and that was not going to work. That was just not going to happen. But what surprised me was how few events Icelander won. Mm-hmm. Like, I was expecting her to crack the 900 mark as well, but she's right at 834. So
she did have a notable top 8 presence. She did have a notable top 8 presence in week 3, and I think she picked up 2 or 3 wins. See, it looks like 2 wins this past weekend. So that's not like trivial. She still has a presence
for sure, but I was expecting a stronger performance, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the problem with it is, and it just comes with the nature of ice, is that it's a very skill-driven matchup in most of these cases. I actually think it takes a lot of piloting to play Icelander extremely well, because the majority of the correct plays are the plays that you don't make, because Icelander plays only when she has to. That's the point. That's the most efficient way usually, is you don't overreact to things. And so I think it's like the feeling in the floor with Dromize. I really think that Icelander suffers from that as well, in which it's a very, very skill-intensive pilot in some of these matchups, and you're just not going to see it everywhere.
So in the wake... go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a really good point, because there may be a whole lot of Icelander players that were trying to win their nationals, but how many actually good Icelander players were there? I mean, not everybody can be a Majin Bay or a Rhea or Lucas Oswald or any of the other people that have been,
Daniel
at
Rutkowski,
that level.
Yep.
Yeah, Dan Rutkowski is another one, but yeah, not everybody can be at that level. So that makes sense.
So in the wake of Nationals week 3 and Nationals overall, Lexi picked up 27.3 of the top 8 slots in week 3. So on average, she was representing 2 slots in every top 8, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lexi a problem for competitive Fab? I don't know if 2 out of every top 8 actually represents an issue.
I mean, 20. You said 23%.
27.3. So a little more than 2 slots per top 8 was her representation over week. And week 3 was much more diverse. I'd have to go look, but she had 80 top 8s over the entire season. I believe that's what this spreadsheet is showing me. The most surprising, though, is the number of top 2s. Lexi had 32 top 2s out of 44 nationals. That's actually astounding. If we're going to look at a data point and say Lexi is problematic, I think 32 top 2s might be the most telling number. Because not only is she getting in the top 8, she's almost always converting to grand finals, right?
And of those that made it to the finals, there were 41% total across all the nationals. 41% of all of the national events were won by Lexi this year.
Yeah, that's 18. I think that's close to a problem, but is it really a problem with how the Living Legend system works? I think she's pretty much gone, and I think there's a lot of discussion in the Card King guys Discord I think it's the Card Game Guys Discord, that ProQuest will LL her out before. Like, looking at her performance, she will not be a legal character in Worlds. There will be one more ban and suspended announcement right before Worlds.
That
Has that been confirmed?
No, nothing's confirmed. Nothing's confirmed until they put a real date. But
I don't necessarily think they'll do that.
There's speculation.
If they do that, they give a week for everybody to prepare for a new meta, and that would shift so many players off of Lexi. I'd rather just have Lexi go out at Worlds.
I think we'll have an announcement and we'll know, right? I think this ban and suspension announcement, they'll say this is going to be the next one, because we'll go into ProQuest and they'll say, hey, either she has a chance of getting LL by ProQuest and you need to be prepared if you're a Lexi player, or she won't. And you can just go with your normal preparations going into Worlds. I think we'll know way ahead of time if it's even going to be possible.
Well, what they did with Briar, when Briar was close to the same number of points, like in the 920 range, back in December, January, right at the last ProQuest season, they said that if Briar hits 1,000 points during ProQuest season, she will be banned as of such and such a date. So there was prep time going up to, God, I want to say it was Calling Indy, that they gave everybody warning. If she got the points, she would have been gone, but she didn't, so she continued to be legal.
So there's even precedents for like mid-ban and suspension phase bans. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we'll hear something like similar with Lexi. I think they'll give people plenty of ability to plan, as much as possible to plan for their deck for Worlds, but there's a very real chance Lexi won't make it.
I really think they're going to leave her alone. I mean, I think she is going to be a legal hero at Worlds.
I'm okay with it.
There's a lot of speculation going on about whether or not she's going to be the same Lexi deck that we've been seeing for the last few weeks.
That's true too. Like, there's some subtle cards that they can hit, like that will only hit Lexi, like Red Arctic Incarceration, or if they just said Arctic Incarceration in general is out. I don't think does Icelander even run that card? I don't think she does.
That is a good question. I don't know.
I can't recall. I think like maybe Frostbite Icelander, where she tries to slam you with like 8 Frostbites at once and then double Frost Hex you. I've seen that before, but I don't think I've seen it in like standard Bullander or even the current iteration of Icelander. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't remember seeing any in the Bullander lists, and well, as a Katsu player, my whole theory / preparation against Icelander is just pretend she doesn't exist and don't play her. So I don't know for sure.
I love the matchup, so I play it a lot. I don't recall Arctic Incarceration, but it could be maybe the lists I'm playing, they side them out because they're good, but they're too risky. I don't know. But that's maybe something they could ban. They're not going to ban Voltaire because it'll end up being she'll never living legend. She'll be just stuck at 926 forever. They've
already to bring it back to the point of when you said like the whole point of the living legend, like that's the whole point. Like is they already know Lexi's not necessarily a problem, but Voltaire is, right? It's just naturally going to go. They're not going to ban Voltaire. If they hit anything, they're going to hit something of her support in the terms of Endless or the terms of 3 Oak, but I don't think you can actually hit 3 Oak. I think the hero would completely operate differently. People say it'll still be the same because Voltaire is still going in on the stick, but I don't believe so. She'll lose a lot of the ability to throw 2 arrows to preserve life, which is one of like her key abilities in an aggro matchup, is to give up 2 cards and still be able to 3 Oak. And people say, well, that's not fair, but if she wasn't able to do that, she physically would get backed into positions where playing on the back foot would be lethal for most Lexi players unless they somehow pivot with a really big Arctic Incarcerate. Like there would have to be something crazy. It puts too much too much pressure on her, I think, indirectly. I don't ban 3 Oak. If anything, ban one of the arrows that you think is an issue or something like that, or leave her alone and just let 41% say that it's kind of a coin flip or not. There's decks that beat it.
So the other winners, and though Lexi won a lot, we did see some Missouri's win. We saw a Bolton pick it up in the Netherlands. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, a lot of Katsu representation, but I don't think he managed to pick up one this weekend.
I don't think so.
We did see a Bravo. Cyprus was championed by a Viserai. The coolest thing about Cyprus though is there wasn't a single repeat hero in top 8. It was
Really?
it was Viserai,
Cool.
Briar, Dromai, Azuri, Dash. Oh no, there was two. Was there? Hold on, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was 2 Briars. Never mind, there were 2 Briars. 2 Briars, a Rhinar and a Lexi. It's very diverse.
It's still pretty diverse in terms of the heroes. I like some of the other nationals that aren't exactly. I mean, they're big, but they're not like hundreds and hundreds of people. Where you do have a lot of different sort of hero pools and some of the diverse top 8s. But I still think in some of the bigger nationals, you still saw ninjas being represented quite well. I mean, again, Lexi is a very consistent, good deck. She's not 70%, winning. I don't know. I don't think she's that oppressive in terms of it, and she's going to be gone anyway. I mean, for right now, for you to make such a gripe about it, I get it. But it'll be gone. It'll be gone soon. Just let it play out. It's close. Icelander will be the same. They already talked about there being a sort of break from that whole thing. The meta will speed up a little bit. They're going to introduce a bunch of heroes. It'll be a good time.
Now, has LSS started to be afraid of making heroes that are too strong? Did the Tales of Aria heroes just like shock them into being very cautious? Because the most notable result of Nats is no presence of Vincent or Prism. None. No presence of Riptide. Arachne is still unplayable. So the only hero that's had any impact on the meta at all is Azuri from some of the newer stuff that we've seen.
Yeah, that as much that breaks my heart because I love Vincent as much as I love Katsu at this point, but she's just had no impact whatsoever. Maybe the puzzle was just too hard to solve. Maybe we just don't have all the right tools for her yet. But that's sad.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty of the card game, right? Like, I get some heroes feel completely unplayable right now, or they don't feel up to par, or Prism feels like a real shadow of her former self, right? Where they said, oh, we don't want to go too overpowered, but now look what you have, kind of a thing with Vincent and Prism. But the good news is that they're new. And that the whole point is they're going to continue to get support. Like, the cards are only going to get better. And they have to start with a shell, right? So they have to say, okay, here's our baseline. Oh, it's not that broken? Oh, okay, so what can we add? How can we test the wall? Because I think Vincent still does some very unfair things. It's just you don't get to see it. I honestly think that the meta will open up with Lexi and Icelander gone, just because the majority of the field is so stuck on those two. On Lexi, but that type of playstyle. And I think you'll see an influx of a ton of different things, especially with the mech heroes. You have no idea how that's going to shake it up. Plenty of support sets. That's what. That's the beauty of the card game, right? Is these heroes are going to
build up
relevant.
the weaker heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very difficult to tone down the heroes that were made too strong.
Right, and so it's good. I think it's a good thing, and I think when Ice does come back, they'll do something different, and maybe it won't be good. Everybody will say, "Oh, that's not as good as Frostbites," but it'll eventually it'll have that identity. I think that's what they're doing, and then they have some decks that have problems. That already have had an identity for a long time.
Do we think anything will get banned from Lexi? I actually don't think anything's gonna manage to get banned. Maybe I'm wrong. And that ban list comes out, I think, in about a week on next Tuesday.
Yeah, we are recording on Wednesday. The ban list comes out next Tuesday.
So we'll be discussing the actual published ban list then. Is anything else going to get banned?
Multi.
I don't know about that.
Seems like such a stretch.
There's been rumblings. I know there's been some rumblings about it, but I don't actually see Tumultide taking a hit.
Tumultide, by the way, has went up this is crazy because it's a Majestic. You look at that trend line, a whole $1 since that card was revealed, and that's
actually kind of notable.
Crazy.
Yeah.
From low 2s to sitting at 3 for just a bare Majestic. I promise it's because Tumultide can go in every deck now, and people are starting to get really scared. And where are all these? I keep saying it. Where are these Lexi players going to go?
I think we're pretty solid that Warmonger's diplomacy has kind of settled out a bit. It really does hose some heroes, but like an Azalea got top 8 in Nats in a Warmonger's diplomacy meta. So
Diplomacy is going to be one of those cards that creates the Brian Gottlieb was talking, Gottlieb, however you say his last name, was talking about creating the ebb and flow of the game. Warmongers is going to be one of those cards that does that. There's going to be, like, it made a huge impact right when it came out because nobody was prepared for it. But now that people have had time to adjust to it and decks have had time to adjust to it, you're going to start seeing them come out of a lot of lists. Then once people start getting complacent, not worrying about it anymore, bam, it's going to come back and hit us again. So that's a card that's not going away, and it's going to have that kind of impact on the game over a long period of time.
And
especially with newer heroes that can come into the pool and use it as well. I mean, right now there's only a few heroes that like really get to freely utilize it, and so I think that pool's only going to increase as long as it doesn't get banned, which it doesn't look like it's going to. The price has sort of settled out though, so you might want to pick them up.
And I don't know for sure what that Azalea list is, but I can almost guarantee it was running rich on the E-strikes, stuff that made it resilient too.
Yeah, Rabbles, Ravenous Rabbles,
More
and
dips.
other attacks. I mean, it's you have to consider Warmongers in your deck list. You have to play around it until you don't. I mean, it's not going to be too long before nobody's going to be playing them because they have no impact on a game anymore. Then, like I said, eventually it'll come back around.
Yeah, it'll splash back in once people start disrespecting it again, and people get gotcha'd by it, and you'll see games that shouldn't be won get won by a single card play.
Yep, right. Yep, like we did right after it first came out, and it made the entire internet salty.
So your last note on here, and it's related to War Dip, is speculation on Duskblade getting unbanned.
Yeah, I have seen some again rumblings on the internet because I spend all of my life outside of my family and work online on Discord. You see it in several different places. Is Duskblade actually safe to unban soon? Because we have things like Warmonger's Diplomacy, and Viserai is just not in a good spot. Does he need the help like that? Would Duskblade help push Viserai past the halfway point to Living Legend?
I think we also haven't seen a Runeblade card in the expansion slot for Bright Lights. Maybe if we get a Runeblade card in Bright Lights, that could be what they're trying to push a little bit of power back into Viserai with. He's been floating around for a while, and I this was before I started playing, but he had his like OTK days, right, where he was kind of doing really well and gathering up points, and then he's just stuck at 500 for or around 500. I think he got 20 points
under 500. Yeah,
he got 20 points because he picked up the Cypress win. So would Duskblade be a problem? You could break a hand.
I don't know. I don't know if it would. I mean, with Rosetta leaving with Briar, I think the Runeblades could really benefit from that. I mean, is Duskblade powerful? Of course, yes. Duh. Obviously, it was banned before anybody even got a chance to play with it. But this is not the same game that it was when Duskblade was created. There's a whole lot more tools.
Would Vincent play Duskblade? I don't think she would. I think that'd be specifically a Viserai.
That would be a Viserai thing.
I think Vincent really relies on that Scepter of Pain or Flail of Agony to pick up that extra rune chant to smoothen out her deck, where the Duskblade won't do that, and you'll just run into even more clunky Runeblade hands.
Yeah, the Duskblade wants you to play a non-attack and an attack action, and that's not something that Vincent wants to do and take advantage of it. So, what do you think, Noah?
I think if you unban Duskblade, you limit yourself to how you're going to be able to design the hero cards coming out later. So I think you already set a precedence now. You say, well, here's Duskblade.
I could always ban it again.
But why? That's what I'm saying. Why bring back the card and then shake it up and then say, well, we couldn't figure out how to balance it? Because then the thing is why not just ban, you know? Like,
well, they did that with Drone. They unbanned Drone or Brutality and said it doesn't fit in our design space. We don't like how it doesn't trade correctly. And then they unbanned it and said the only ways you saw them played the only ways you saw it played were ways that are not very fun. So You're right. We banned it for a reason.
That's because they opened up the ability to have the whole side deck and the 44 cards. And I think that plus drone was a problem. But I think they enjoyed the ability to have that kind of a side deck. But they can't do it if drone is there because they've already seen what's going to happen. So they said, okay, well, we can't make any additional changes because of X. So that's what I'm saying with Dustblade. Well, we unbanned it. We can't. So just leave it unbanned, or just leave it banned and just make something else. You can give him power creep in a different facet. I think. I don't think Viserai is as one-dimensional as I feel like heroes like Dory are, where it doesn't matter what card you give them, it doesn't change how they're going to approach the matchup, which is I have to swing my weapon. And you have to be so careful what you do, right? But Viserai has attack actions, Rune Chant plays. It's got like build up. It's got I could stack. There's a couple of ways you can do it. Is he good right now? No, but you've got a way to flesh him out, which I think is fine. I don't think you have to do it with Dustblade.
Okay. Well, here's a question then. Before Voltaire was Lexi's signature weapon, it was Shiver, and I want to say that was only a recent change that they made Voltaire her signature weapon, so it's going to LL with her when she goes. What if they changed Nebula Blade to Dusk Blade for Viserai, so that if Viserai gets it and is able to use it, it's only legal until he takes it back out.
He takes it out with him.
Well, you get a Voltaire situation then. If the card becomes too good, everybody says, "Oh no, why'd you unban it?"
I don't know if the card would ever become too good in this match.
The card has scaling with an already scaling deck that gets perfectly compensated for. But you're gonna do it anyway.
No, you're not necessarily.
Yes, you are.
Because if you draw dead hands, dead hands, you lose it, and you can't draw dead hands in Rune Blade. It happens all the time. You immediately take
grasp. Isn't grasp an action?
No, it has to be a non-attack action card and an attack action card.
Viserai doesn't have a problem. I promise you.
I'm telling you, all Rune Blades have this same problem. They'll draw a handful of attack actions, or they'll draw a handful of non-attack actions. And you can kind of like cushion yourself some, right? That's what Royal Viserai does. Royal Viserai can use the gold with the cash in to fix bad hands or hands he defended a lot with, or he can use it to just go huge and do gigantic amounts of damage. I've seen Viserais go both ways, where they use it as a pivot. Like near the end of the game, they actually kept it all the way till the end, and then they pivot with it.
Leave it banned.
Yeah, I actually don't think Viserai is terrible. He's just not keeping up.
Say it was bad.
They will be a whole Rune Blade set, or a whole. This expansion set is like test the waters kind of thing, and I promise you, they're going to figure out ways. Set? I don't know.
I'm not sure what the theming. Where would you see a whole Rune Blade?
Well, we're going to get Savage Lands at some point, right? And I'm hoping to pick up some warrior cards in that, because that feels fair. But I don't know. Maybe after that, you get some more shadowy stuff.
We go visit the Demonastery.
We know they've already talked about there being a third sequel to Monarch.
Yeah,
so
a lot of that shadow.
Yeah, that's not until like 2025, right?
Yeah.
But we already know it's going to exist.
Anyway, done with what we want to take out of the game. Let's talk about what's getting added to the game. Bright Lights comes out in about 2 weeks. Pre-released in about 2 weeks.
God, I'm so pumped now.
And we have a whole week's worth of spoilers to talk about, and I'll put them up on the sides of the screen as we talk about them. Do we want to do like the card list order? Because the card list order would have us talk about Shriek Razors first and how it impacted Flick Knife.
Well, we should just talk about whatever it is in order.
All right, so we'll do card list order rather than the chronological release order. So for anyone who wants to know, you can go find the people who did their respective spoilers. Fabrary.net graciously has them all kind of like laid out by date, and it has the content creator that it's associated with. So make sure everyone goes and checks that out and give all those content creators some interaction, some clicks. So the first one we're talking about is Shriek Razors. So I like this card a lot. It is battle worn as opposed to Blade Break. It uses the silver mechanic. You can pay 2 silver to buy it back, and it gives you like an attack reaction that's like the opposite of what's that other gloves called that gives +1 for 2?
Breaking Scales.
Yeah. No. Breaking Scales is free. What's the one that's generic from Outsiders? Fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs.
Yeah, so it's like the reverse of fisticuffs, right? I think fisticuffs are also blade break. So it's very similar to fisticuffs, but you can buy it back, and specifically you destroy it for 2 as an attack reaction, and target attack action card defending an assassin attack gets -1 defense. I like it. I think it's pretty good.
I have no qualms with the card.
It's battle worn.
Coming from a deck that now has these juxtaposed 2 arm pieces, I promise you there will still be a necessity for flick knives. You're not going to always have the mana resources for 2 silver. We've talked about this. You're going to want to buy back black text before you buy this back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, for sure.
The battle worn is nice. The flick knives gives you potential on 2 attacks, so in late game when you're going for those break points, you can get it with flick knives, and you don't have to expend the flick knives.
Well, it's not break points. It's just flick knives is an inevitable 2 damage. Inevitable 2 damage.
But it's 2 damage that's going to apply an on hit that's going to make a block harder.
Only one dagger really applies a relevant on hit, and it's the one that does D reacts, and you have to time it correctly. So yeah, go ahead.
This card has me the most excited, probably of any of the cards that we've seen outside of Tome of Imperial Flame. As a Katsu player, I am very fond of my Breaking Scales because you always have to be aware of it when you're considering your blocks. This card does the same thing better than Flick Knives, in my opinion, because situation you play your stealth card, you activate Uzuri, and now you've got a face down card in Banish getting ready to swap in. That is almost always going to be a 6 power attack, right? So most of the time you're going to want to block that. You're expecting to block for 6 and cover that up. Now you have to consider, is the Shriek Razors going to mess up my blocks? What effect are you going to get hit with because of the Shriek Razors?
Yeah,
the Shriek Razors is always on the board, just like the flick. I mean, you know what I mean? That the 2 resources is possible. I mean, it's inevitable, just like blocking combo with Breaking Scales, right? So, to an extent.
Let me kind of paint this picture for you, Noah, kind of right off the bat. Let's say you want to swing with the Spider's Bite, but you don't want to give up any more information than that about how much pitch you have and what you have in your hand. You swing with the Spider's Bite, they don't block. So you're already dropping someone down to a 2 block on their attack react. And then you swing in with your stealth card, and you go, okay, I'm going to block for 2. Why are you blocking for 2? Because I probably have a D react in hand. You see them flip, you throw out the sink below, now you're at 6, and the Shriek Razors are now there to drop that attack block down to a 1 for a total of 5 to get the hit through. And it's always there messing with them.
Yeah. If you were worried about, but it can only happen once, and then they're going to have to pay 2 silver to do it, and they're not going to be able to pay 2 silver as much as you think they are to recycle that.
You didn't let me finish my story.
One relevant on hit.
No, you didn't let me finish my story. So now you got to think about the mind game this applies to the opponent, where you swing with the Spider's Bite, right? And now your opponent has to think, do I need to block the Spider's Bite to even have a chance of blocking the 6 that's coming through later? Where a lot of times you would know you could block for 2 plus 4. Now you're like, do I now need to block the Spider's Bite and the 3 plus 4?
I mean, I guess there are decks that are going to be super attack action heavy, but remember, it is also attack action, so you can get around that with the reacts. And I mean, so for my deck and for some decks, obviously, it's not an issue. Sometimes you're not blocking anyway. Most of the time, pardon me, if you're worried about the relevant on hit and you're worried about whether you're going to block it or not, most of the time you just weigh taking the on hit and what the repercussion is for it. And so it's something that's always present. But where Flick Knives literally says, no, I planned to block this. Now I can't because he's thrown the dagger at me. This literally says, now I just respect it like Breaking the Scales. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad card. I just don't think it's a no-brainer. Take your Flick Knives out, swap over to Shriek Razors for every matchup, because it's not going to be good in some matchups. There are some matchups it's going to be absolutely useless against in terms of what attack action are you going to -1? And what will it matter? Do you know what I mean? If I get against an Uzuri that's playing Flick Knives against or Shriek Razors against me,
most decks are attack action heavy. The Dory is an exception Dromai is a little bit of an exception.
I mean,
Icelander, Kano.
there's
Yeah.
a
So
most
clearly,
have actions.
but also remember this thing's battle worn, where you can cover up a breakpoint and not lose it like you do with flick knives.
I think it is great for blocking. I think if the extra armor is really what you want in a longer matchup where it's just going to sit there and use it once at one pivotal time, absolutely, sure, go for it.
But when is that pivotal time though? That's the mind game. Like same thing with it's breaking scales. It's
well, yeah,
always messing with your head.
Your opponent is going to tell you when the time is because your opponent is going to say, use it if you want. Here's a third block, use it if you want, because your opponent also wants you to get rid of it. And so they might say, I don't care about the on hit. That's the point too, is that it's still a give and take. Your opponent is going to tell you when they want you to use it. If you don't want to use it, then you don't have to.
But that's not even the most I think the most powerful card Assassin's gotten spoiled. We've gotten 2 cards this week, and the next one is already dead. It is a red 2 for 6 blocks 3. You're contracted to banish opponent's non-action card. So a non-action card is literally anything that doesn't say action at the bottom. So that can be equipment, that can be defense reactions, attack reactions, anything that doesn't say action. The on hit says when this hits a hero, banish the top card of their deck and a defending card. That is so spooky.
Where was this card when Oldhim was still legal?
I know, right? This would made Uzuri have such a much better matchup versus Oldhim. It would have at least been possible. No.
So smart it just dawned on me what this is like for, right? This is to insulate Uzuri against crazy mech fridge that he just
it's an anti-mech card
about, right? And so you absolutely had to print something like this. Yes, it's going to indirectly say, oh no, now I got to worry about blocking with my temper pieces. I literally can't throw my thing willy-nilly, my Courage of Bladehold, because I don't know if Already Dead's coming in. And so I have to be prepared to protect my Already Dead. Or my Courage of Bladehold from Already Dead. And so it does. It's going to, like, again, I think Uzuri is going to be, I'm telling you, these flick knives.
As a Levia player and a Dash player, it's like, now I can just not block. I can't block with Scabskins or who's the Shadow Beast ever again versus Uzuri. It's going to get eaten up.
This is like a Tomotai, right? This is it is in a weird sense. Obviously, Tomotai gets to say, I don't care whether you're blocking or not.
Exactly.
Which is the unclear part.
There's a lot of interaction that you could still do. D-React still apply to this. Like
perfect
prevent damage.
Blood card.
Yeah, it's good.
And the fact that it's 2 lets you do some crazy. It's an arsenal. You have 2 cards blue, looking for scrap. Boom, 1. Throw that out. Look at that. Well, how crazy is that? What a turn! What a turn that you throw a looking for scrap for 5 and you already dead. Or sorry, you're Uzuri.
You might see less of those cards when we see these stronger 6s, because Azuri's been kind of starving for these really powerful 6s she could throw out that are on like that are on the same level as like Command and Conquer. Because like, what does she really have for her 2 for 6s?
It's really not even CNC. It's just shakedown.
She's got
but Death Touch is just damage.
She's got Humble. She's got Death Touch.
Humble is situational. Death Touch is great. So I think she has 9 cards.
There was a glut of 6 drops or of 6 power attacks that came out in Outsiders with her. Now there's only a few that she uses, but she's got options.
Yeah, she's got options, but I'm saying this is probably up there, not quite the power level as Command and Conquer, but it's really high up there. Command and Conquer can't have D-Reacts applied to it.
Yeah.
So
nothing will ever be as good as CNC.
Yeah. Please don't print an assassin only card as good as Command and Conquer. Please.
Yeah.
Command and Conquer.
That is a card that will never be power crept. That is about as good as it's gonna get, I think.
All right, Donnie, you get the spotlight for the next one. It's gonna be Wax Off. It's the ninja card that was spoiled. It is a blue block 2 that says if you've played Wax on this turn, create a Zen State token. And I will display all the cards and stuff somewhere on the screen.
I'll tell you why in a second, but don't be mad. It's a good card.
I hate this card. I hate this card, and I hate what it represents. This, to me, this screams, hey, maybe you should try the defensive Turtle Katsu build again. Turtle Katsu is an option again. I hate that. I hate playing against fatigue. I hate playing against it. I am sure not going to play it. If I'm playing a ninja hero, I want to be going Kadachi Breakpoint. Kadachi Breakpoint. Combo. I'm playing a fighting game. I'm not going to play my rushdown character as a turtle. No, I love what I do love about this card is that they completed the cycle and now it's like, this Karate Kid whole thing. I mean, that's cool. I love flavor. I love flavor text, but come on. Really? Are you trying to push the meta to be slower? Because not only is this not going to do it, it's just. I feel insulted. Really, okay. I feel insulted over this.
So let's look at a similar card in the design space, which was Hold the Line. And a lot of us were really excited, including me, when it first came out. And the card is basically unplayable, even against matchups that have consistent hits. So like Lexi sometimes have 6 cards in her deck that turns Hold the Line. And after playtesting, it feels great to be able to block 5 total with 1 card, but the application is very difficult. And I think Wax Off will have a problem where you have to get Wax On and Wax Off in your hand, where you're going to only have 3 Wax Offs, and I don't think you'd want more than 3 Wax Ons in your deck. So you're having to get both of those to get the value. Red Wax On isn't awful in some matchups.
I mean, if it works, it's overrate. If it doesn't work, you've got a block 3 defense reaction. And if you play the yellow version, it's a block 2, maybe a block 4 if you're lucky. But this card is going to be so situational. It's not funny. It's going to take setup. I mean, if you're playing a defensive deck, you're going to have time to set up anyway, right? So maybe there is a use case for it, but
it would have to be like super turtle, like, because why not just run Flick Flack, which is already an insane value D-React.
Well, you will run that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand the frustration because I feel like Ninja, obviously, you want it to flow. You want it to be all about the quick strikes and the combos and all that stuff. And I think they tried to do that with enhancing the Crouching Tiger line as well, and maybe giving you some better options there. But I also feel one of the things that Ninja has a weird time with is, you can play defensive and you can pivot, but like Ira does it just because she's going to keep 2 cards and throw it out. Katsu, on the other hand, you don't want to necessarily be throwing, like, you don't want to throw 2 cards, like keep 2 cards, block 2 cards with Katsu, right? Because then you're never going to extend your chain out. I just feel like this gives you not a full fatigue, but if you can get a Wax On and a Wax Off turn set up, think of it like a weird pivot turn.
Let's think of what is the optimal value you get from it. You block a 0 with Wax On, you get 4 points. Then you block you block with Wax Off, you get 2 points. So you've netted a total of 6. And then you get the Zen State. If you block them both at once on one attack to block 6 on an attack, you would get the Zen State immediately, right? And it'd go up by 1. So
if you play the
exactly maximum value would be an Empowered Enlightened Strike hitting you. You actually fully block the 7 with 2 cards and get Zen State. So we're maximum value. Someone throws an Empowered Enlightened Strike against you. You Wax On, you Wax Off, get your Zen State token, you fully block out the 7, and then you get a Zen State token that lasts one more turn. And someone throws 3 attacks at you. So now you've netted 10 points of value, 10 points of value from 2 cards. That seems really good.
I've been thinking about this as a Katsu card, but you mentioned Ira, and maybe this was more towards Ira and slowing down Blitz?
Could be.
This is definitely a Blitz card as well. If I didn't necessarily think of that, but with Ira playing the way that she wants to and defensive, this is a way for Ira to sort of like turtle down and say, okay, hit me for 1 less on all your attacks I'm going to take, and then I'm going to throw my hand back at you. And if you do it from arsenal in hand, right, you're giving up 2 cards and you still have a 3-card hand, you can go pretty wide with 3 cards on Ira and make a decent attack. I mean, there's some decent 3-card hands. I don't know. I think it'll be an interesting card to see what else comes out from it. The problem that I think it has with CC and Katsu is even if you want to use it on a pivot turn, it's trying to get those two cards together where you're going to get the most value on a pivot turn where you're going to return some kind of crazy hand and like, oh, it's so good. You know, like you get some crazy value out of getting that Zen state and then just disrespecting your opponent the next turn, right? Keeping the 5-card hand and then returning it. But that's going to be super situational.
Let's think of another like 3-card and 3-card combination that popped up from Dusk Till Dawn. And that's Slithering Shadowpede and Artivore. Like in Levia. That combination is cracked. You banish the Slithering Shadowpede, you get to play it for 1 cost, you can call go again and draw 2 cards, so you're basically doing chain things for the turn.
Oh yeah.
It is hard to pull that off. Like it's so hard to get it right. Because the only way to get it is to just draw it naturally in hand, or Arsenal the Slithering Shadowpede. Now it's a little easier because you could Arsenal either piece and still get it to pop off. For wax on and wax off, but
yeah, you could. But think about that too for second cycle. If you're playing, like if you're pitching a lot of your power cards to second cycle, and now you go for this wax on, wax off thing where you take the Zen state and you're able to disrespect some breakpoints because you have that 1 negation and that 1 prevention, and that lets you play out. I don't know. I think it broadens the ability of Katsu so that you don't have to like, I'm playing all in, I gotta go. You know what I mean? This could be like a methodical second cycle. Let's trade. And so maybe it's not the way most people see Ninja, but I think it makes Katsu be able to trade better. In some of the matchups where he goes, oh, I guess I have to race. Well, I guess I have to. You know what I mean? I think you can say, well, do I have to race? Or can we play like a good back and forth?
Like Flack's already in that design space, and it's fantastic. It's 1 card that gives 6 points of value. Like,
but this just adds more to it. I think. I think it lets you sacrifice some of your innate raw damage for more of a late game and methodical play style into like crafting out some turns.
I think we can talk about this like all day. We should move on. We should move on to Emboldened Blade, which I'm not going to comment much on. We got into an in-depth conversation.
Shut up and let you talk, Noah.
Yeah,
I'm just going to shut up and let you talk, dude.
Okay, so Emboldened Blade is blue 0-cost block 3, and I'll let Noah discuss the effect. It's going to be right here on the screen.
We have a blue block 3 that basically says turn a face down card in any arsenal face up. That means it can be yours as well, but you're probably not going to do it to your own. If it's a defense reaction, destroy it, and your next weapon attack this turn gets +1. Go again. All right, I get it. All right. Off the rip, everybody probably is going to think, well, this is either really good or really bad. I feel like it's only in those two mindsets. I don't think there's anything wrong with the card. I don't think it's necessarily something to everybody should jump on the Dory train now and she's fixed, she's solved. This is the one key thing. I do think that this is still a fine card. I think Dory ends up playing a lot of cards, especially the Dawn Blade. This isn't true for Bolton because Bolton wants yellows. This isn't true for probably the Decimator Axe, I don't think, because I still think there's better just raw value blues you want, and most of the blues in there are just for the block 3 value. But for Dawnblade specifically, I think it's a fine card. It's going to be part of the blue mana base. It's going to be like any one of your blues. The only upside and downside is, whereas Iron Song Response and that one hand is going to come in clutch, this has that same sort of, well, is it really useful? Only if it's being used kind of a thing. I definitely think there's going to be matchups where you're not going to be rushing to play this against your Fis and your Katsus. Perhaps. I mean, I don't know now with wax on and wax off. But just in general, I mean, if you know your local meta and it's Guardian heavy, a lot of people like to play D-Reacts.
How much pain would you feel if you went to block or you played that and ate the Katsu's wax on? Like out of their, they would feel so much pain with that wax off in their hand doing nothing now.
Like, I mean, obviously with any card there is like, well, what's its good scenarios? So there's going to be scenarios where it's really good, there's going to be scenarios where it's really bad, but for what it does, yes, it's a glorified titanium bauble, but that's what a lot of Dory's cards end up being. Iron Song Response for 1, it is a blue for 1. It is a 1. I didn't even block with it for 3. I got 1. You could tell me I saved my counters. You could tell me I won the game. But like, it's the same thing with this. If I do hit this right, I practically win that turn.
I'm going to say the one thing I really like about it is that if we look back one meta where some of these cards were probably already designed, We had Dory versus Oldhim, which was just basically hopeless. And I think this card could be strong enough to get into the late game, eat that one red D-React that they pitch stacked so they can pivot on you and ice you out and just put you back to nothing. And this gets you through that if you follow their pitch stack. So you know it's in there. You know they drew it. You saw that you didn't see them play it. They played out their whole hand. You saw it go into Arsenal, and you go, I got you. It's not even a question. Bam, your D-React's gone. Eat it.
There are a lot of great players who will sit on D-Reacts until they are needed. The Icelander will sit on a sink below for 2 turns. It's usually, I mean, like, there are reasons that you sit on D-Reacts, and so it would not be weird. And so what this does is it says everybody's first inclination is, if Dory ever gets strong, is D-React up. And so this literally says, hold on, are you sure about that?
This card's gassed in a Dory tier 0 Dory meta.
And that's why I'm saying, so it's not going to fix your problems. But people play enough sizable D-Reacts. Again, when Lexi goes, what are we going to see? Probably more Dromais and Uzuris. What do they like to run? They do like to run D-Reacts. I know Oasis and Sandcover is completely a thing, but they run Fates and Sinks. That's 6 D-Reacts. That's a pretty good chance that they're going to sit one in an arsenal. And you can kind of feel it out. You usually get a feel for it, the body. It rewards really good playing and really good like paying attention. It's going to reward a great player, a player that knows. Oh, no, this is the time. Boom. He's going to get rewarded from this card, and I think that's totally fine.
Let's move on. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
We got 3 more cards to get through. And I think probably in my opinion, not the best, but the coolest card that's been spoiled so far is the new Riptide specialization, which is Intoxicating Shot. It is a blue 0 cost 4 attack 3 defense. So it's like great.
Hold on a second. Say that one more time just to make sure everybody heard you correctly.
Blue 0 cost 4 attack 3 defense. Yep. So I'm saying those stats are great.
Amazing. I know people are memeing all over this, throwing this. I throw CNC back.
Yeah.
This is one of those cards where it's not the complete
context. It'll be on the screen, but the context is that if it hits, the opposing player gets a courage and a quicken token. And so the meme is like, yes, I take your Intoxicating Shot and return with a 7 damage Command and Conquer with Go Again. For people who aren't familiar with Riptide, a lot of his traps trigger on attacks being greater than their base and attacks having Go Again. And so Riptide struggles into any hero that's just throwing clean haymakers over and over.
Yep. So this turns on basically everything the Riptide wants to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's a blue 0 for 4 at endgame. Like, this is a break point and it's blue, so it's something you're going to feel great pitching. This is fantastic second cycle.
Yeah, this is not going to. I don't think this is going to make Riptide meta. I mean, he's not going to be the next tier 0 deck, but this is just a cool card. This is just a cool card to play. I mean, if I was a Riptide player, I would be over the moon to see something like this.
And you know what this really makes me want to do? A Riptide UPF deck.
Yes. Oh, man.
Call it Drug Dealer Riptide. Just give someone a shot in the butt. I'm going to hit you for 4, but you got to, like, that person to the left of you, get him.
No. You can block. You just have to take 1 damage. You can block 3 and just take that 1 because it is a break point. You don't have to take the full 4 on it.
And then they get a quicken and a courage token to bash the person to the left with.
Get them.
Get them. I'm very excited for Intoxicating Shot. I think it's a very bold statement of design that LSS is not worried about doing like these really interesting things that kind of seem bad but fun, or have other design spaces. This card, you could see it used competitively, but I think it has really fantastic legs in both the UPF format and the future PvP. If they allow you to shoot each other, like you imagine like hitting someone who struggles to get Go Again, like a Leviah or something in PvE. You say, okay, I'm going to shoot you and just give you a quicken token, and now you could just throw 2 endless mauls into the boss.
That is really good about the whole PvE fest, and I didn't even think about that, and how it is sort of multi-tiered, where it doesn't look like it's going to insert itself directly into CC. But I think they really like the trap design space of Riptide, and I think that's going to be the main identity that they'll be trying to shoot for. And so this just allows you to create further traps, like where taking a CNC, well, I guess if it's a defense reaction, it wouldn't work. But just in general, taking a card that has going, there's going to be like a aha, like I got you kind of a moment. And so that now they get to sort of incentivize you, go ahead, throw the go again. Because I'm sure Riptide is going to continue to get tools that are going to deal with exactly what you're going to throw at him. This isn't supposed to be a freebie. This is supposed to be a joke's on you kind of a thing. And I think later on, when you're disrespecting the breakpoints, which is when it's going to be really, really good, and you're trying to throw these crucial attacks, Riptide is going to nickel and dime you with those traps, and that's going to be the icing on the cake.
Imagine being at 2 and he shoots this at you. You're like, I can't let it hit because I'm going to die to a trap the next.
Right. And so again, right now doesn't do anything, but for those people who are all about the CNC, Riptide's going to run strengths. He's just going to trench the card out of Arsenal. Come on. Like, be real. You're not hitting it with CNC.
Our next card, and this one might have gotten the most hype. I don't think it's as deserved as the last card we'll discuss. I think the last card we'll discuss is cracked. But Tome of Imperial Flame. This is, I think the Light Warrior helmet is nuts. But I don't know if it'll push Bolton over the edge. But I think as a card alone, that card is insane. But first, Tome of Imperial Flame. It's a 1 red, 0 cost, no attack or defense. So that thing is locked into your hand until you play it. Or pitch it. Draw a card. If you are royal, instead draw 2 cards. You may pitch 2 red cards if you don't banish your hand again. I think this is the first instance of an effect that allows you to pitch without paying a cost. Is there anything else?
You are paying a cost per se, right? But
it's not a cost. There's no colon or anything. It's like if you don't do it, you don't have to do it. But if you don't do it, you gotta get rid of your hand.
It's of course it's not a must, but you are highly incentivized.
But what I'm saying, it's not a cost. Where Dromai can struggle in some cases to get Ash because she needs to pitch to get it. And also, it can be very difficult to use Flame Scale Furnace because you're like, okay, how do I get that initial red card in there to pitch?
Time skippers, right?
Tome of Imperial Flame, if you think about it with Flame Scale Furnace, represents a red card that acts like a blue card plus some.
Yep.
It's amazing.
This card is absolutely bonkers.
It's
It
really
is
good.
exactly what Dromai wanted. I mean, Mara Ferris even said if she was given an opportunity to create a card for Dromai, it would not be as powerful as this card is. This thing is insane.
I think it is very strong. The thing is, I think it's a good design. Again, it's creative. It shows LSS is willing to try out new things with how their cards work. They're kind of breaking their pitch rule that I don't think they've ever broke before with this card. Remember, the card makes the rules, so if it breaks the rules, it's fine. But it changes how pitching works, specifically when you play this card. And it can be clunky, right? What I was saying with when it first came out is imagine drawing this with Remembrance. If you draw this in Remembrance in the same hand, you now have this hand where you're like, this hand at best can block for 6, and the 2 cards I keep kind of aren't great. So
I think most Dromai lists are moving. I think Dromai is going to move more towards a red line list. Mara's Empress version is probably going to be the standard going forward. I definitely see more aggressive lists trying to get as much value as possible out of this card. I don't think Big Dragon is going to be as popular.
So
I don't think there's a reason for Big Dragon because
I think this will shift the deck lists a lot.
Well, yeah. It adds for the design space to let you play a multitude of different Dromais, right? Because you just have access to card draw, you have access to better pitch, you have access to Ash generation. I think it's going to open it up. You have access to whether you want to play Royal or not.
You might even see like a blue-less list almost. Like it might be possible to have like almost no blues in deck. This card might fix some of that, or very, very few blues. Like ones that are actually good, like Warmonger's Diplomacy and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's basically Mara's list. Is entirely redline. I mean, she played a couple of blues like as a concession to Icelander, but this card, I mean, it's really good. It is
Really good.
really really good.
Yeah, with Flame Scale Furnace, it represents an automatic 3. You play the Tomb of Imperial Flame, you pitch the 2 red cards, you get to draw your 2 cards, you activate the furnace, and the furnace just jumps you up to sources off of when red card play. You do lose the 2 cards out of hand, right? You are losing 2 cards out of hand, but you were going to do that anyway. Your hand relies around pitching approximately 2 red cards. I think it's like 1.5 red cards a turn. Is what you're pitching a lot of times with Dromai.
I don't know. I've not played the deck enough. I mean, I've got it built, and I am a patron on Mars content, so I could get access to that primer because she's got like a 41-page Dromai primer written at this point. When I first signed up for the Patreon, it was like 21 pages. Then after let's see, was it Pro Tour? No, not after the Pro Tour. After one of these other major events, she added another bunch of content just for the Bravo matchup, and she recently just added even more. So she is almost literally writing a book on Dromai.
It's like a living guide, right? Because the meta shifts and stuff.
It's a deep hero.
Yeah, she's a really deep hero.
It's a really deep hero, and so I think this card's going to actually add to the depth and add to the creativity of it. I think it's going to drive Dromai up. I think it's going to drive the playability up and the play shares. So I see this being a card that translates to Dromai's success. Yeah. Especially with the coming meta.
This is a staple.
Yeah.
You will see this card a lot.
Yep.
All right. Our last card that was spoiled, and I think this one's on similar or just as high power level in a vacuum as Already Dead and Tomb of Imperial Flame. That's the Warband of Bologna. Warband of Bologna is a light warrior equipment headpiece. It is temper 2 with a usable effect as an action. 2 resources to destroy it, and the next time you attack this turn, you could charge your hero's soul. If it was a yellow card, charge this way, draw a card. It allows you to essentially charge for free. It gives you like that kind of 1 turn. You have to pay for it, but it does fix some clunkiness that Bolton can run into. But it's also just 2 block temper, so it represents 3 points of value on a headpiece, where Warrior's already sitting at, I think, 3 on chest, 3 on gloves, and 1 or 2 on boots.
1 on boots.
1 on boots?
Well, 1 on boots unless you're playing Dynamo, and then the sky's the limit, right? But it's usually just 1 on boots for faction bolters.
So that's 10 block across their equipment suite.
Well, yeah, for Bolton specifically, this would be Radiant Flow representing 2 prevention. So if you wanted a full fridge out, it'd be the 2 prevent because he runs the Radiant Flow.
Oh, his new chess piece actually almost represents 5 block, right? Because you get to prevent 1 damage if you charge.
Yes. And so it does, yeah.
Bolton, with this new headpiece, that puts him at a 5-ish, 3, 8, 3, 11, 1, he has 12
one of the best
block.
fridges in the game.
12 block on equipment.
Absolutely one of the best static fridges of the game, outside of obviously throwing Husk in front of something, right? But the card is amazing. First of all, it's stunning. I want it at the EA right here. I want this. I want this so bad.
I bet the cold foiling is going to look fantastic.
If I don't get this out of my cases, I'm going to be upset, and I'm going to have to find it instantly. And then obviously it fixes a dead hand. I mean, it has the charge keyword, which is great. This isn't just putting it into soul.
It actually says charge for once. Yep.
So this is like everything Bolton could want. Now, does it instantly, yay, jump him up?
No.
Probably not. No, but once again,
we'll
once
have to see.
The meta clears
close.
out,
he's close to being like really strong.
Icelander and Lexi are gone, and a bunch of other crazy decks start duking it out. I think Bolton has a great presence. I think he becomes a suitable hero. He'll be middle of the pack, probably up in the higher tier. He'll have some great matchups into some of the really top tier decks, and I think he'll hold his own.
You've given Combo Bolton 1 more life. Well, you've given him Combo Bolton plus 1 HP, and every HP you give Combo Bolton, the scarier it gets that you're going to get Lumina Boomina.
It's good stuff. It's a great card, and I think it is a good start. If he doesn't get fixed with this, they're in the right direction with a lot of the toolkit they've been giving him.
LSS knocking it out of the park again. Go figure.
All right.
It's a card game, right? Not everything's going to be good now, but the future looks really good for some of these heroes. It's just going to take a little bit of time for them to flesh out, but it looks good. I'm excited for most of this. This is some really great cards.
And we're going to have so much to talk about next week, too.
Oh, with the ban list, it's going to be great.
Next week, we'll be on the other side of the completed early spoiler season from all the content creators, and we'll be full in to the pre-release preview season. So we'll have a ton of cards to talk about. We'll be in between tournament results, except for Dallas isn't this weekend, is it? It's next. I know Dallas is coming up. I'd have to double check the date because I'm not going. Yeah, I'm not going, so I didn't even think about it. I need a fab break. I just do my 3 or 4 games per day, and that's it for me. But hey, I'm looking forward to. I love mech, so I'm really looking forward to this bright light.
What about the Rumble? Do you want to mention the Rumble?
Oh yeah, that's something. I forgot about that.
You take that, Donnie, because that's something you brought up and mentioned.
Yeah,
all right. Let me find the information, but the gist of it is that the Realm Games is hosting a absolutely gigantic event that they're naming the Realm Rumble. It's the post that they put on Twitter. I'm just going to read it. It says, huge announcement / giveaway. Introducing the Realm Rumble, a 3-day weekend event celebrating all things TCGs. Featuring over $45,000 in prizes. They've got a video posted. This is going to be. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be towards the start of December, like in the first few days of December. But there's going to be a $20,000 Realm Invitational. There is a $10,000 open entry event, and I think it's going to be classic constructed for Flesh and Blood. Then there's going to be a 5K event that's going to be a team event. And then there's also going to be other tournaments for other games. I know that there's going to be a 5K for Magic, the modern format, but I don't know anything about Pokemon or Alpha Clash to comment on those.
There will be a 5K for both of those as well, for Pokemon and for the other one as well, Alpha or Arcane, or I can't think of the other game. But it was team sealed, by the way. The other 5,000 Flesh and Blood is team sealed.
Team sealed.
So that's team sealed.
Is that Outsiders?
I don't know, but it sounded fun. I was already excited about it.
Oh yeah, Bright Lights will be out when that comes out. Okay.
Team sealed for that would also be extremely fun. I think it's going to be some of the best limited you're going to be able to play.
There's no shortage of competitive Flesh and Blood. It's like really turning into like a full-time hobby if you're trying to keep up with the competitive scene.
No, it's great.
This event is on the same level roughly as US Nationals, isn't it?
I mean, money-wise, I think it's more unless you consider the gold foil cards, which are kind of volatile in their value.
Or the invitations and such, but definitely in terms of prize pool and in terms of just for the card game and the communities in general, it's fantastic because it's not just Flesh and Blood. There are other card games being supported, and so it's really great to see the whole community.
I wonder, do these bigger events, do they work with LSS and do they affect ELO rating at all? Do they count as experience?
Not traditionally.
I wonder if that will change in the future as other organizations want to host their own events. It just kind of incentivize, hey, you can come affect your ELO here.
I mean, something this size, there may be an exception made, but we don't know yet. I mean, this was literally just announced today, and this is the information that I've got sitting in front of me right now. We may have more to talk about on it next week, but definitely just wanted to touch on it this week because that is going to be a massive event.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have time for tonight. So, Donnie, take us out of here.
Well, real quick, Noah, where can everybody find you if they want to hear more from you?
All right, so you can follow me. I've been revamping my Twitter. We're going to have a SICcast Twitter as well that I'll be making, and so there'll be that as well, an official one for the podcast. But for now, you can follow me on Twitter at LudSoHeavy. You can probably search me up there as Big Max. I'm pretty sure it's goes both of those. And so I've been revamping it. I'll be verified as soon as it lets me, because I had to wait 3 days after I changed the profile and stuff. But I've been touching it up, getting into the fab, following things around. You can find me officially there. We'll have our official page coming up soon, but I'll be posting media decks, things like that from our armories, fun stuff, just engaging with people. So
what about you, Thomas?
You can find me as Wet the System on Discords and at System Wet on Twitter. Or
At
X.
System Wet.
At System Wet.
Oh yeah, X. I forgot it's X now. It's the same thing.
It's Twitter. It's always.
If you put twitter.com,
it still goes to it.
Yeah. As far as I go, I write the FabDad series for fabrec.gg. I also do tournament coverage for the same website. I have been working as, well, I don't want to call it work because it's mostly fun. Anytime that event coverage has come up, if you see the SickCast popping up in the YouTube comments, that's probably going to be me. Just trying to get the name out there, you know? But yeah, look me up on any of the social medias as Draco Hominis 87. My DMs are always open in any of them. Hit me up. If you want to talk Katsu, you want to talk about being a dad, family, whatever, I am open for conversation. But thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope you enjoyed catching up with us this week. And if you did, we need your help. The best way you'll help us is to leave a like and a comment. It makes a huge difference to new channels like ours when you engage with what you see. If you don't want to miss out on future casts, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube so you know exactly when to find us again next time. Until then, take care of yourself. And remember, we are all siblings in cardboard. Take care, everybody.